Hello, today for review I've got recently released new model from the Korean company TheBIT. It is Opus number 3. Actually, TheBIT actively developed their lineup. About a year, even more than a year ago, they released their first player Opus number 1, and it became one of the most successful players. Then they released flagship model Opus number 2. I've already reviewed both number 1 and number 2, and I'll put a link to the description as usual, but here is new Opus number 3. Actually, TheBIT actively developed their lineup and they succeed in design, in schematics and in sound, everything. So Opus number 3 is targeted a bit below than their flagship Opus number 2. Its price about $900. It uses different digital to-analog converter. Actually it is Burr Brown PCM 1792. There is not so much players using this digital to-analog converter chip, and this makes this model even more interesting. So let's see what we've got here. Package is almost traditional. This time it is gray outer wrap with almost no polygraphy, only technical specifications on the back panel. Model name 4-inch TFT display with good resolution, 480 by 800 pixels, ARM Cortex-9 1.4 GHz quad core, 1 GB of RAM, all supported formats. Actually it supports everything, and even TheBIT stated that this player supports MQA, 10 band equalizer, USB micro B, so on and so forth. There is 3.5mm single-ended and balanced output, 400 mAh battery, about 8.5 hours of play, but actually I've got about 8 hours and 10 minutes in my tests. 64 GB of built-in memory, customized Android 5.1 as operation system. It supports Bluetooth with A2DP, and it supports Wi-Fi, all standards. Weight is 220 grams. It's a bit heavy, but it's actually pretty nice. PCM 1792 support up to 192 kHz 24 bits, frequency response almost linear, very good signal to noise and crosstalk ratio. Total harmony distortion is also low, pretty low output impedance, and 3 volts RMS on balanced and 2.5 on non-balanced. So actually good specifications for the modern player. Box this time made in good navy blue color. It's actually darker than it appears on this video. Here the player itself, I already pulled it out, and underneath you will have envelope with manuals and 2 protective screens. These 2 are extra ones because one already applied from factory, and pretty good USB cable. Opus number 2 came with leather case made by Dignis, very good. I don't know, will TheBIT put also case in this for this player. There is empty space for the case, but my player came with case separately, so there were no case in this box. It was separated, so I'm not sure what will be in the final version. But anyway, for this price, accessory set is pretty good. So here is player and the case. For the player, TheBIT made really interesting design. Let me show it to you from different sides. As you can see, there is interesting pyramid pattern. Case has metallic frames, but back panel made of plastic. This is high quality plastic with metallized coating, but it's plastic. First of all, it makes player a bit lighter. It already weighed 220 grams, and also there should be plastic because there is antennas inside. But EMI shielding is done really good. This player has almost no interference with wireless networks. So here is 3 play control buttons, traditional. I can't even express how good this shape looks. It looks good and it provides you really superb grip. Player don't try to sleep. Headphone and balanced output, on-off button. As usual, player supports deep sleep, so you don't need to turn it off completely often. Unusual volume wheel, made a bit like Astral and Kern ones. The wheel has good clicks, distinguished clicks, so encoder is really good. As you can see, it moves a little bit, but it's not not an issue, I think. On the bottom there is USB connector and micro SD slot. Player supports up to 256 GB micro SDs. As usual for the TheBIT players, here is inside there is XMOS chip, so it works as USB digital to analog converter without software, so it bypasses software when you use it as digital to analog converter. We turn it on. Front panel is almost occupied with the screen. Screen is really good, with good resolution, with good brightness. Even for bright sun it remains visible. It is a sensor screen, of course, with good distinguished touches. I'm not sure does video shows, but screen is really good. When we turn it on, there is 3 traditional Jazzotech songs, which is common for which TheBIT uses as the demo songs. It is, by the way, it's a good jazz project from Korea. I like their songs actually, especially these 3 that always came preloaded with TheBIT players. Firmware is almost common as in Opus number 2 and number 1, but there are a few pretty important differences. So first difference that I like, there is volume lock button, so you can press it and then volume won't change. It is very nice when you put player in the pocket and you don't want to accidentally change the volume. So as you can see, it's now playing screen with big cover and so on. Here is access to the media library. Here is everything is common. See all songs, albums, artists, genres, folders, favorites and playlists. So everything is common. Players really fast in scanning media, so it's traditional. It's controlled well by finger touch, by taps. Here is drop down where you can select different options, so Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, line out, equalizer, sleep mode, repeat and shuffle. But the most interesting it is settings here. So Wi-Fi and Bluetooth it's common, and streaming it is one of the most distinguishing differences. I will return here later. So screen here is traditional brightness, auto display off. By the way, let it be at least 1 minute. Audio, here is equalizer, gapeless and so on. Output, it is more interesting. Here you can turn on and off line out, change balance, and you can select DSP mode. Should the player play over the I2S interface or over built-in XMOS chip. And also there is gain control. Actually, this playing over the XMOS chip, as I understand, provides bit perfect for all other software that is possible here. So off timer, USB mode, USB digital to analog converter mode, date time, storage, update and so on and so forth. So actually familiar firmware with the exceptions of this streaming media menu. So most interesting feature, as I've said before, it is this streaming menu. Here you can find 2 additional Android applications. There is an instruction in the internet how you can install other software, so you can download APKs and install this into this player and access these applications. So pre-installed you will have Spotify client and NetOpus player. So Spotify works, it's pretty good, actually everything as you expected. And NetOpus player, it is more interesting feature. This is the implementation of the DLNA and UPnP client and server. So you can select internet and access the media over your internet. So I didn't connect to internet yet, but everything is player C itself as a media server. And you can select renderer also here if you have some network renderers. So it is pretty basic but pretty nice implementation of network streaming access. TheBIT told that they will backport this to their other players, at least Opus number 2. Not sure about number 1, but I hope they will implement it also there. So it is an opportunity to add more streaming services in future, and at least it answers the questions why these players need Wi-Fi without access to the streaming services. This question were oftenly asked about Opus number 2. So this is first player from TheBIT that supports streaming, but this will soon be added to other players by this company. Just quick size comparison with FIO X5 3rd generation. So Opus number 2 is a bit bigger than Opus number 3 a bit bigger than Opus number 1 and a bit smaller than Opus number 2. So here is comparison of lengths, about a few millimeters longer, noticeably wider, and a bit thicker. But anyway, and it's a bit heavier. But anyway, Opus number 3 remains pretty pocketable. It fits into hand nicely, and it's really pleasant by design. I'm often feeling sorry when I need to put it into this case. By the way, here is case itself. Really good leather, good build quality, nice color, so I think it's perfect. And the most interesting part, it is the sound. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough time to listen this player with all headphones and earphones that I have, but actually I've already made first initial impressions, and I will tell these initial impressions. So with time I probably can change my mind a little bit, but I think initial impressions are the most interesting. Opus number 2 became one of the biggest revelations for me last year. It is really high-end player with affordable price, relatively affordable of course price. It is Opus number 2 is resolving, fast, natural, very musical, with superb separation and so on. For Opus number 3, TheBIT decided to make a bit other sounding. I don't like this idea of typical digital tonal converters cheap sounding, but actually Opus number 3 has this hint of the sound that commonly described as PCM sound. So it's a bit darker, a bit smoother, with this hint of warmth and more meaty body. But actually it's just a little hint. It's not dark sounding player, it's more like small accents. So low frequencies here has accent on them, not by quantity, but it is accent with weight. They sound more weighty than in Opus number 2. They have good resolution, not as good as in Opus number 2, but pretty good. But they are a bit smooth as all representation all over the sound spectrum for this player, but lows here are smooth too. But they have good texture, they separate instruments nicely, so it is good low frequencies that build a solid foundation. It's not the bass head player, but it's player for those who like a bit of added emotions. A bit of added emotions and a bit of added weight on lower frequencies. With some genres like jazz, it sounds really superbly. Mids are on the musical side, they are not super fast, not super resolving, but resolution is good, of course. But they are not just go this nitpicking, giving this dry and monitoring sound. No, this player is emotional and their mids are full-bodied. Actually, imaginary soundstage is surprisingly good for players that has some coloration. It's wide and deep, so actually staging is really good. Treble is also nice, it's detailed, but they are just a little bit rolled off and a bit smoothed to provide non-fatiguing and pleasant sound. So it is player for those who like a bit reduced treble, who afraid of harsh treble and harsh dry sound. But actually treble here is really good. They are detailed, they are airy, so it's pretty balanced overall signature, and it is a really interesting player. Compared with Opus number 2, actually I can't say that it's worse or Opus number 2 is better. It is different sounding DAPs. They are created for different audiences, but actually I like this player, especially with good high-end IEMs. It has almost zero hiss, it provides enough power to drive IEMs, and sensitive full-size cans also it can drive. So TheBIT make another really good player with perfect price, with perfect build quality. It's a nice step forward for the company. It provides new interesting streaming features and really musical engaging sound. Thank you for attention.